I'm extremely sorry for that. I'll do it today itself. So today we are going to discuss about equality. Equality. So question is that what do we mean by this term equality and how do we define it? Or is it a precondition? Like while we were discussing about this topic of justice, we said, can it be a case where equality is a precondition for justice or justice is a precondition for equality? Meaning, when equality prevails, then we can just say that yes, justice has been ensured, or when justice takes place, then only we can say that equality exists. So, what is the relationship with equality, justice, right? It's also important to understand this part because equality is something which have been debated by various theorists in different manner. It has been defined in different ways. So, we are going to look at all the important definitions. Important definitions, okay? And again, equality, justice is some of the theories which have been debated hugely in 18th century, 19th century, even 20th century theorists have discussed it in details. Okay. Now, one of the thing also we'll find is that is equality an important condition for human development, or are the concepts like equality, justice, rights, all these lead to human development, or we can say that yes, these are the subparts that define the concept of human development, because ultimately the objective of political science and especially political theory is to look into the characters of human development and understand how different aspects of equality, because in equality can be broadly divided into like legal equality or economic equality, okay, or social or political. So these are the, again, we can say that these are the different concepts or subparts of human development. And when we talk about 20th century movements or debates related to equality, can you tell me where do you find the origins of legal equality, economic equality, or political equality? Can you tell me where do we see the broad debates around all these and later development or the great development has taken place in 20th century? Anyone? What is this UDHR? What is this term UDHR? What does UDHR stands for? Okay, let me just give you a clue. This is associated with United Nations. So what does UDHR stands for? Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And Universal Declaration of Human Rights, there has been various declaration where the recognition was like earlier it was political right, then social, economic. So we'll look into all of these things also, like whether economic came first or political, social, what was, because when we are talking about human development, what is the necessary condition for survival of a human being? So in that case, what will you say that yes, it is important, without that humans cannot exist? Is it the political equality, is it social equality, is it economic equality, is it legal equality? Like for example, there is equality of opportunity. Okay, so and then there is right to vote. Just an introduction, then we'll go down in details. Okay, the third is, you can say, right to participate in election or right to participate as a representative of people. So do you think that as a human, the right to vote is more important or right to equality is more important? For survival, right to vote is more important or right to equality or equality of opportunity is more important? Can, as an individual, can we
Right
say?
to equality of opportunity, sir.
Yes, because we can survive without voting also. So in that case, legal, when we talk about legal equality, now the question is, without legal equality, equality of opportunity cannot be supported, because legal opportunity is something which is not only enforced but also in a way recognized by the state. So whenever we are talking about equality, this will always be in terms of the role of state, because our equality, our right are recognized by the state. Who else are going to recognize the rights? Who else are going to recognize the equality? Because whenever there is a violation of equality, it is the state which ensures that there is no violation, and in case of violation, the state shall what, penalize those people who violates our equality rights? Yes or no? So these are some of
Yes,
the
sir.
debates that we need to understand, and the questions can be asked in this manner also. Okay. So the first thing, when we talk about equality, so, and again, let me write inequality, equality. So again, the question is, which one do you think exists? Is a precondition? Equality exists before inequality, or inequality exists before equality? Which one comes first, inequality or equality?
Inequality, sir.
Yes, inequality. There is inequality. Therefore, there are process to address this inequality. Therefore, inequality is a precondition for equality. In that case, we can also say that equality is a relative term. Why relative term? Because there is a, you can say that yes, this is a position where we say that yes, equality will be there. So when we are moving from different positions to this position, so we are saying that over here inequality prevails. There is a reference point. So that's why it is said that equality is a relative concept. Why? Because it is being measured with respect to inequality. It's not a absolute concept. So the demand for equality will always arise out of inequalities. Okay. Because you will see that when we talk about Aristotle, the book that he wrote, Politics, he defined three different social classes. Aristotle defined three social classes. What were these social classes? Anyone who can tell me? Citizens.
Yeah. Sir,
Then,
philosopher, kings, and merchants.
so is it only three? So three broad social classes.
Elites,
Okay. Then,
Slaves.
so you can say the ruling class, citizen and slave. Yes or no?
yes, sir.
So who had the voting right? Or let me ask the question: who did not had the voting right?
Slaves.
So
Slaves.
they no voting right.
Yes, sir.
See, whenever we are going to have any lecture, it will be more like a kind of discussion. Okay, so that even if I ask question, there will be a multiple times where you'll be forced to think so that you can participate in the discussion process also. Okay, so when slaves did not had voting right, and let's say the citizen had the voting right, this means we are comparing the situation of a slave with that of a citizen, and then we can
Yes.
say that yes, inequality is there. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So this method, that's why we say that yes, this is a equality is a relative concept because we are comparing the situation. Now, whenever we are talking about equality, equality is not identity, is not identity. Because equality is a more like you can say the social concept. It is more like social concept. Okay. Identity is something which can be measured. Okay. For example, 4 minus 2 can be equal to 5 minus 3. So these kind of things are identity because 4 minus 2 is 2 equal to 5 minus 3 is equal to 2. So this is identical. This is not equal. Got the concept? Okay. And when we talk about the medieval time, legal privileges, legal privileges belonged on the basis of status and birth. Birth. Okay. So, whenever we are talking about equality, you'll find that there are many movements or revolution for equality. Talk about gender rights, talk about equality of wages. What was the objective of French Revolution? Equality, liberty, and fraternity.
Yes, sir.
Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, equality became the first American Revolution. Objective of American Revolution. Again, equal rights or equal status to what? Citizens of all colors. So equality by birth. सो इसीलिए आप देखिएगा कि इक्वालिटी इज समथिंग जहाँ पे पूरे वर्ल्ड में फॉर इक्वालिटी सबसे ज्यादा मूवमेंट हुए हैं एंड स्टिल टुडे दे विल बी यू विल सी व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट अ जेंडर राइट्स सो जेंडर राइट्स आर ऑल issues are all about equality, right? Equality of wages, you can say equality of opportunity. When we say सबरीमाला टेम्पल में जो एंट्री की बात हो रही है, इक्वालिटी ऑफ व्हाट? ओके,
Sir, means equality comes before liberty.
यस, इक्वालिटी कम्स बिफोर लिबर्टी, इक्वालिटी कम्स बिफोर जस्टिस. अब ये नहीं कि फ्रेंच रिवॉल्यूशन का ये तो स्लोगन था, इक्वालिटी, लिबर्टी एंड फ्रेटर्निटी. Okay, so because it is assumed that once equality is prevailing in the society, others like rights or justice can be, then rights and justice can follow. Just because when we are saying the legal or legal equality, this legality of equality can be supported or recognized and maintained by the state, or who else is going to maintain? Who else is going to recognize my equality rights? The state? Yes or no? That's why
Yes,
we
sir.
see that what does Article 32 talks about? What does Article 32 of the Indian Constitution talks about? Right?
Anyone,
Huh?
anyone can go the court if violation of their fundamental rights.
Yes. So anyone can move court if my fundamental rights are violated. So this means Article 32 is more important than the fundamental right, or fundamental right is more important? Article 19 talks about the fundamental right. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So which article is more important, Article 32 or Article 19? What will happen if Article 19 is violated? What will happen if Article 21 is violated? What will happen if Article 22 is violated? What will happen in that case? We will move court, but moving court and presenting our case must be also a fundamental right. Otherwise, we cannot. Who is going to ensure my fundamental right? How is Supreme Court going to ensure my fundamental rights are protected? This means Article 32 is more important than the other fundamental rights, because Article 32 provides strength to each and every citizen in case of violation. And this is the same case with equality. When we talk about legal equality, therefore, when we talk about no, economic equality cannot be cannot survive or cannot be enforced without legal equality. Got this concept? Okay. So what are the some of the definitions? So first, let's look at some of the definitions, because in the entrance examination, they'll often give you a statement and they'll say who is associated with these statements. Okay. So anyone having any question in understanding the things that we have discussed so far? Okay. So one of the earliest definition that we can see is given by Harold Lusky. Okay. And he says that the purpose of society will be frustrated at the outset if the nature of a mathematical met with identical response with that of a bricklayer. So meaning his argument is that equality is not identity. Is not identity. So if there is a question that who is associated with the concept that equality is not identity, you need to be writing Harold Lusky. Or he says that equality is not identity of treatment or reward. Treatment or reward. Treatment or reward. So why? Because he argues that each individual has different capacities, different needs, different wants. Has needs, wants, or capacities. Okay. So one example that you can think of is, let's say, Narmada Bachao Andolan. So who is associated with Narmada Bachao Andolan?
Sundarlal Bahuguna.
Medha Patikar. Sundarlal Bahuguna is not associated with Chipko movement. Okay. So in Narmada Bachao Andolan, they were, when this dam was created or being developed, so many people were replaced, okay, or rehabilitated. Now think of three different individuals. All the individuals, they had is identical piece of land. So the government gave them all the three as identical piece of land. But think of a student, or think of a girl of one of the families. So her school was, let's say, 0.2 kilometers away from her home. Okay, at the earlier location. Now the new location is like his home is having 5 kilometers away. So do you think just by giving equal amount of land somewhere else, or giving a residential facility, is going to do equality with all? Because here what we are looking at is identical treatment or awards, but not equality. Why? Because different people have different needs, different wants, different capacities, and this may hurt adversely. Okay. Therefore, there are two different, whenever we are going to treat equality, equality is a treatment of inequality. Okay. And inequality can be natural, it can be man-made. So when we think of Aristotle defining three different classes of, let's say, making distinction between citizen versus slaves, and he argues that citizens should be, or he argues that slaves should not have the voting right. Right? He argues that a slave should not have a voting right. So this is a kind of inequality. So is this inequality natural or man-made?
Man-made.
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 Okay. However, think of inequality in terms of, let's say, those people who are living in plains and those people who are living in hill areas. Okay. So in terms of physical capacity, who do you think are more physical? Who have more physical strength, the plains or the hill areas, in terms of climbing and coming down of the hills or something, or doing physical activities?
Obviously, hill areas.
Oh,
Hill areas. So more tough as compared to plains. This is a natural fact. So this is again, this kind of inequality is natural or man-made.
Natural.
natural.
So this is natural. So the treatment of equality shall be done for man-made or natural inequality.
Man-made.
Yes. So whenever we are going to make a treatment of, whenever we are going to study the concept of equality, this will be done only for man-made equality. We are not going to make a treatment of, women of different heights. Okay. Can it be done? I mean, you can be taller than me. So, and I'm shorter than you. Does it mean that it can be said that yes, it's unequal? Okay, inequality. But then there is no treatment for it. When we talk about wage pay gap between men and women, so this is a natural or man-made.
Man-made.
So
Man-made.
we are going to make a treatment of all of these things. So natural inequality की treatment नहीं होगी, man-made की treatment होगी. Okay. Now, equality can be negative and positive also, like liberty. Because whenever we are talking about equality, there can be in terms of certain privileges, okay, positive and negative. So positive equality is associated with certain privileges, which were they present in terms of jamindari system or the feudal system. Okay, and negative equality is thus negatively equality is associated with the end of such privileges. So whenever we are talking about the availability of privileges or availability of opportunity, so that everyone can have an equal chance. So someone said about equality of opportunity. Of opportunity. So such kind is, you can say that these are enabling factors of human development, right? So it's a positive equality. Because This helps in the progress of an individual, equality of opportunity. But then wherever we are looking at some restricting some of the privileges, okay. So, like in terms of when the you can say the American Revolution took place, the citizens were deprived of the rights to have slaves. So the privilege of holding slaves or owning slaves were taken away. So you can term that as a negative equality. Okay, because negative equality is associated. Over here you can see that this is giving some equal status or equal rights to the slave, and how through taking away the privileges of the wealthy class of the society. So that's the negative equality. Okay, but then you can, when we are talking about equality of opportunity, it can be economic, it can be anything, then it's a positive equality. Okay, so how does Harold Lusky defines equality? Lusky defines equality as absence of special privileges. Absence of equal privileges. Okay, this means will of one is equal to the will of all. Of one is equal to the will of all, or you can say another. Okay, it means equality of rights. Again, rights in itself is a different concept that we are going to discuss, because right in itself can be thought of as a privilege, power, absence of privileges. So we are going to discuss that also. Okay. So equality means, you can, when we are talking about the will of all or the equality of rights, so let's think of in terms of the social benefits. Social benefits. So these social benefits, it should not be restricted to any single person. It must accessible to all. To all. Okay. And no one should be restricted. Should be restricted. In the Indian Constitution, when we talk about the rights, the fundamental rights, can you give me an example of negative equality? Anyone who can give me an example of negative liberty? Because we are saying that negative liberty is like taking away something to bring equality in the society. So, within fundamental right, tell me one article which takes away something.
Sir,
Aditi,
untouchability can be eradication of untouchability.
there is not taking away something. Next to that is Article 18 is
Article 19.
Article 19 promotes. So Article 19 is more like a positive equality, because it promotes. It says that yes, you are free to hold association, practice anything. So it's more like a positive liberty. Negative positive equality. Negative equality कौन किसका एग्जाम्पल हो सकता है which takes away something? No, not like president privilege equality. What about evolution of titles?
Sir, Article 14 can be The example of negative equality.
How? What about evolution of titles? Evolution of title is being taking is like taking away something from the privileged group.
Yes, sir.
So is it a negative equality?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hmm. Because the difference between negative liberty, that's why I said, like negative liberty is, let's say one group is over here, one group is over here. This group is deprived of the privileges to bring them here. Okay. Whereas this is the concept of negative. Whereas positive equality is, let's say, one group is here and one group is here. So equality of treatment so that this group also comes to this position. So when we say equality before law, so this is more like a positive equality because even though some of the groups might be deprived in other sense, they are given an equal status with other privileged groups. Like take the example of Ambani and Dipankar. I am richer than Ambani. Yes or no? कौन ज्यादा अमीर है, अंबानी या दीपांकर?
Ambani, sir.
Ambani.
अरे दुखी कर दिया आपने. He is richer than me, but I have one voting right. Ambani is having also one, or he can cast 10. He can cast 10 vote or only one vote.
Only one.
And I can also cast one vote or only 10.
Only one.
So both of us are equal.
Yes, sir.
So this is positive equality or negative equality.
Positive.
हाँ, अंबानी जी के पास अगर 10 वोटिंग राइट्स होता ना और वो 10 में से घटा के एक किया गया होता तो वो कौन सा राइट हो जाता? नेगेटिव. तो नेगेटिव इक्वालिटी, पॉजिटिव इक्वालिटी क्लियर? Okay. Then equality can also, Lusky also says that equality can also be in terms of absence of economic and social exploitation. And social exploitation. Absence of social and economic exploitation. So next is Baker. Baker writes that idea of equality is a derivative value. He argues that equality, it's a derivative value. So what do we mean by this term derivative value? Value of development of personality.
Sir, is this Ernest Baker you're
Mm.
saying about?
Yes. Okay. And why? We are talking about development because everyone has own development line and own separate level of development. So whenever we are talking about equality, so from unequal level to we are coming to a equal level. Okay. So you can also think of equality in terms of when something is guaranteed to me. When something is guaranteed to me in the form of rights, let's say what can we guarantee? So let's say rights. So same is guaranteed to others also, or in the same way. Guaranteed to others also. Okay. And if others get something, that shall be given to me also. Okay. Then we have Brian Turner. Brian Turner has written an entire book on equality. His title of the book is Equality. And he says that he has given some of the conditions which must be included uh, for the concept of equality. And the first one that he talks about is the fundamental equality of person. Equality of person. Okay, meaning every must be equal. They common to culture, religion, whatever we are talking about, because each and every individual is equal before the eyes of God. Everyone is born in the same way, everyone is going to die in the same way, right? Equality of man as man, when we talk about human nature, human dignity. Okay. The second is equality of opportunity. Equality of opportunity is important for the survival. Okay. Access to important, and when we are talking about equality of opportunity, it's not just about access to economic resources. It also includes access to social institutions. Like, for example, when we talk about Article 32, so this is available to all. Or when we are talking about access to economic resources, if everyone has a right to participate in the economic process, everyone has a right. If, let's say, there is a distribution of urea, or if there is a urea subsidy, so all the eligible farmers are going to get, irrespective of caste, creed, color, sex, everyone is going to get. So whenever we are going to talk about equality of opportunity, or when we talk about this CUET examination, everyone who is eligible is qualified to appear in the examination, or someone can be excluded. I mean, everything other is correct without unfair means or something. So everyone is allowed to appear in the examination. The third is equality of conditions. Equality of conditions, where there is an attempt to make the conditions of life equal, is an attempt to make the conditions of life equal. So this talks about more in terms of the procedural part, where, when we were talking about the justice, we saw the procedural justice. This talked about the institutional part. So that's why it is saying the equality of conditions, where there is an attempt to make the conditions of life equal. So the conditions must also be equal. That's why you can think of in terms of UPSC CSAT examination of GS paper 2. What happened with GS paper 2? There was an attempt, and it was argued that yes, GS paper 2 is something where someone who has not studied, or someone who is from the social background or humanities background, linguistic background, might face some difficulty in cracking or fetching higher marks in GS paper 2. So at a later stage, it was argued that okay, GS paper 2 is going to be your qualifying examination, rather than its marks going to be added in the GS paper 1 examination for preparation of the merit list. So equality of condition, like whenever we are going to apply the social background from the different background from where the students, so equality must be here also. Okay. So it is the exercise which is being used for equality of life must also be equal, so that the person can realize the opportunity. The fourth is equality of outcome of results. Of results. So, and again, this is equality of outcome of result is this is something that this is uh, very difficult to achieve, but it says that yes, through legislative, whatever equality of results are also achieved regardless of the starting point. So in when we were looking about justice, who argued about equality of results? Ronald Dawkins.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it talks about when we are talking about equality of results, the transformation, because we are from unequal to equal. So it's more like that irrespective of your level of preparation, the final results will be same for all. Okay. So and whenever we are going to talk about equality of, so these are some of the four important conditions. Now in the entrance examination, what they might do is that they might ask about in terms of they'll give you all the four and they'll replace one of them, and they'll ask which one is not correct. Okay, or they might also ask that who is associated with this concept, or what they might also do is they might ask in terms of the interpretation part. Okay. So next we are going to look at the forms of equality or types of equality. Types of equality. So what do you think are the different types of equality? When we talk about equality, political equality, social equality, what equality that means? So there is a difference between see types of equality and dimensions of equality. So first let's discuss the types of equality. So one is formal equality. Formal equality, and this was propagated by John Locke. So what is the core theme? The idea of equality based on the natural equality of man. Natural equality. So whenever we talk about pre-social and pre-political, what do we mean by this term pre-political? Meaning the situation that prevailed before development of what groups or association, and the same is pre-social, before men came and formed groups, social society, something. So this means whenever we are talking about a naturalist equality or the state of nature, what is this term state of nature? Yes, Aditi.
Sir, can you repeat pre-political and pre-social? Uh, I didn't
See,
understand.
whenever we are talking about human beings, आपको क्या लगता है जैसे ही ह्यूमन बींग्स एग्जिस्ट करने लगे सभी लोगों ने पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज बना ली? When what was
Uh,
the need for development of political parties?
management of
Nahin. So earlier, what happened that human beings stayed in the state of nature. Okay. So state of nature is more like hunting and gathering. ठीक है?
yes, sir.
hunting and gathering. Then when there was a scarcity of resources, led to creation of private properties. बिकॉज जब तक आपके पास स्कार्सिटी ऑफ रिसोर्सेज नहीं होगा, व्हाट इज द नीड फॉर प्राइवेट प्रॉपर्टी? आप देखते हैं ओशन में प्राइवेट प्रॉपर्टी का कॉन्सेप्ट है, अपार्ट फ्रॉम द टेरिटोरियल जो आपका डिमार्केशन होता है, इज देयर इज अ कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ प्राइवेट प्रॉपर्टी ऑन ओशंस?
No, sir.
नो. तो जैसे ही देयर इज अ स्कार्सिटी ऑफ रिसोर्सेज ऑन लैंड, there was a creation of private properties. Why? Because creation of private property was necessary for settled cultivation. जो आपके माइग्रेशन करने वाले जितने जो ट्राइब्स होते हैं, उनके पास कोई प्राइवेट प्रॉपर्टी का कॉन्सेप्ट होता है कि इस लैंड पे जो है हम अपना परमानेंट बना के रखेंगे?
No.
तो सेटल कल्टीवेशन के टाइम में ही प्राइवेट प्रॉपर्टी की नीड होती है. So when there was a creation of private property, now the next issue was the recognition. क्योंकि this is my land, that is your land, who is going to recognize it? Otherwise, and state of nature is the state of war also. Okay. And why? Because creation of private property gave rise to what? Self-interest. Okay. So this recognition, the need for recognition gave rise to the political association. So earlier political association was through wars. जो जीता वही सिकंदर, है ना?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this was the concept of, so when we are talking about pre-political, and that's why this condition of pre-political is something that you will find only in humans also or other animals also. In animals, we can say some degree of pre-social or now social because they have their territorial rights. Think of in terms of the tiger or lion or dog, even dog. So they have a locality and they want to protect it. Right? वहाँ कोई political नहीं है, लेकिन there is some degree of social. And when we talk about the culture, when we talk about the term culture, culture is something which is an informal rule which the society follows, the identical rules followed by society. So there was a time when, जैसे हम आज के डेट में हिंदुइज्म में जब मैरिज की बात करते हैं, सात फेरा की बात करते हैं, आपको क्या लगता है जैसे ही हम लोगों ने एग्जिस्ट किया होगा हमारे पूर्वज वो सात फेरा लेने लगे? सो दैट्स अ प्री सोशल स्टेटस. Okay, this is something that we are going to discuss in details when we are going to discuss the topic of sovereignty. Okay, about hopes. Hopes ka pre, when he talks about the state of nature, it is pre-social or pre-political. Rosario kya hai? Just general will. So we are going to discuss all of this thing. So यहाँ पे वो pre-political, pre-social clear हो गया.
Yes, sir.
So whenever we are going to talk about natural equality, this means everyone is equal at the time of birth. Equal at time of birth. And it is the family in which the birth take place decide our social, economic, political conditions and all. Okay. So natural equality of man. By man, I mean every human being. Okay. So formal equality tries to imply the virtue of common humanity. Common humanity of all individuals. This means all individuals must be treated equally. Must be treated equally. Okay, so formal equality. So when we are talking about equality of treatment, irrespective of caste, race, color, gender. Okay, and in which book Marx also makes a comment. The question on Jewish question, what was he contended that formal equality while being he raised a question regarding formal equality on the Jewish question. Have you read that book? On the Jewish question, he contended that the formal equality, while being a significant step towards, could not bring human emancipation. Not enough. Could not bring human emancipation. Meaning, what does this mean? Meaning, when we talk about the idea given by Marx, so Marx talked about coming out of social equality, breaking the social ranks, but creation a movement from social to class. So he says that okay, we talk about equality of opportunity. Okay, we talk about formal equality, but then the market system, the capitalist system, the capitalist economy, the movement was from social system to the class. So there was social inequality was were taken away, and there was a development of the class, and private property was upheld. So Marx says that formal equality is nothing but market equality. Okay, and Marx have written extensively on this private property. Who else have written extensively on private property? जस्टिस में हमने प्राइवेट प्रॉपर्टी के बारे में कहाँ देखा था? रॉबर्ट नॉजिक. Okay. So what do we mean by equality of outcomes? What do we mean by equality of outcomes? So Marx questioned this equality of outcomes, and he said that this right to equality circumscribed by the bourgeois economy can only be partial. The market economy or the capitalist equality can only be partial. The right to equality which survives in the capitalist economy can only be partial. Why? Because he talked about the absolute social equality. Absolute social equality. Meaning, see, in market or capitalist economy, there is capitalist class or the ownership class, and there is a working class. And he has argued that how ownership class will also tries to take or participate in the political process. Now, this ownership class has private properties. This private property is absence in the working class. This means this gives rise to class inequalities. Okay, and this class inequality will lead to this is the cause for conflict and revolution. Okay, that's why he said that at the end we will have a classless society, or classless society when everyone is equal, not only in terms of the social status but also the economic status, meaning the absolute social equality. Everything owned by state. Okay. Now, Hayek has argued, he argues about the different aspirations and goals, difference in aspirations or goals. Okay. And if you treat everyone equally, equal treatment will give rise to actually result in inequality. And this is something that we talked about in justice also, when we talked about the capability approach given by Amartya Sen. So we said in capability approach that everyone has different capability, and if you give them same thing, it might result in unjust results. Okay. So similarly, equal treatment will result in inequality, meaning, for example, like again, take the example of glucose. If there are three different individuals and one of them is diabetic patient, and you give them glucose to increase their stamina, so ultimately this person, the stamina this person will come down as compared to this. So even though we have given equal treatment, it might result in inequality. Okay. Now coming to the dimensions of equality. Now it is said that yes, equality is a multi-dimensional concept. Why? Now comes legal equality, social, political, economic. So how do we interpret this term? So legal equality. Hmm?
Everyone is equal
Yes.
in the eye of law.
It talks about abolition of privileges and legal rights, protection of legal rights. Of legal rights. Legal rights in terms of no obstacle will stand in the way of one pursuit of happiness. So legality can be or it can be broken down into two different concepts or two different terms: rule of law and equality before law. So rule of law means law is sovereign, and no person can declare himself above the law. So in this case, when we talk about legal equality and within this rule of law, so who do you think is given more stress, law or the individual? Who is given more importance in this term rule of law? The law is more supreme or the individual is more supreme?
Law.
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 So does it defeat the whole purpose of individual equality or the individual focus of equality or justice?
Yes, sir.
Hmm. Next is equality before law, meaning law guarantees freedom to all citizens. to all citizens. So in this case, who is more focal point, law or the citizen? It is a citizen, because in this case you'll find that the law is working for the citizen, and here even though law is supreme, uh, it is delegating or relegating individuals to the second position. So when we talk about classical liberalism, do you think people like J.S. Mill and John Locke will agree to this rule of law?
No, sir.
Hmm. Okay. Now, next is your political equality.
Sir, and necessarily legal equality doesn't mean that law will be equal for all, right? There are some laws that doesn't ensure that everyone is equal. Like you can say
Yes,
in
so
a
laws will be equal for equals and unequal for unequals. So you can say legal equality means equal for equals. Okay, and unequals for unequals. So tell me an example where the law is unequal for unequals. Reservation.
yeah.
Okay. So clear? So you cannot claim that yes, reservation is something which is creating inequality in society. Why? Because it is being special treatment for unequals. Or think of genuine deprivation point.
Okay.
Genuine deprivation points. So every female candidate gets 5%, right? So any candidate who scores 65% in the entrance examination, so 65% meaning how much marks? 200 out of 300. So 65 she'll get 5%, so this is 70%. So she'll get admission in JNU.
Okay.
Okay?
Mm. So, sir, it means as a just state, India is a just state. So we can say that law is equal, but in some countries of the world, it may not be the case, right?
Yes, some countries, you will not find reservation in all the countries.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, sir.
Okay.
So
Let's
law
take,
doesn't mean equality everywhere.
yes, let's take the example of Pakistan.
Yeah.
So minority doesn't have any right in those countries. A minority cannot participate or become part of the army. Do you know that?
Yes.
So they have different laws for different people. Think of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So they have unequal treatment for women. Women are not allowed to do many of the things. Okay.
So,
So political equality meaning, let's take the example of one man, one vote, or one person, one vote. So this is your political equality. Okay. So political equality is something which you will find support in, or this is something that you will find in all the parts of the world. Okay. And political equality is always expressed in terms of right to vote or right to stand for election or right to hold office, hold public office. And you will see that when it was being talked about political equality, even in countries like England, voting rights were associated with what? Who had the voting right? Voting right were associated with land ownership. So not all the citizens were allowed to vote in England. Okay. Or when we talk about the slave system, can you tell me a country where least amount of slavery has been existed for most part of the world? India. Because India is the only country apart from the Chinese one where you'll find continuation of civilization, continuation of culture. And slavery has never been a part. Of course, you can talk in terms of the bonded labor, but then that's a separate concept. And do you think bonded labor exists today also?
Yes, sir, I guess.
Yes, sir.
Where?
Many places, sir, people are unaware, that's why.
So I have taken the fee. Am I supposed to teach you?
Yes, sir.
So हम bonded labor हो गए.
Nahi, sir.
हाँ. So that's why I said कि it's a more different concept. Yes, Soumya.
So can it be like in contemporary times we don't see like the bonded labor happening as it did before, but still like for instance wage laborers and farmers who work on lands of big landlords, uh, they're sort of tied in this debt trap where they do not have the same income as the person who is owning the land. So
Yeah.
can that be a variant of a bonded labor?
See, the issue that you are raising is something that you will see to be present in all the market structures. Okay. If you join a company, there is a 2 years bond. What is that? Tell me.
Like a legal contract which is like inevitably a bond, but
Yes. So, after my MPhil, I got an opportunity. I'll not take the name of the organization. So I was being fully funded for my MBA in Stanford University. Okay. The only condition was that yes, I'll have to return back to India and I'll have to work for that organization for 5 years. So is that a bond?
Sir, it's a contract, right? Like,
So it's an agreement.
okay, agreement, yeah.
Okay. Now, why bonded labor is different? Because bonded labor arises out of the like you say that agreement, or you can think of the trade which is happening between two individuals or two contracting parties, where one party is saying that yes, I'm going to pay your expenditure, but in return you'll have to offer your labor. Right, this is the concept of bonded labor. The only issue is that the interest rate is so high that the labor is not able to repay back. In that case, the generation after generation ends up working for that individual. So this is the definition. Yes or no? And you will see, and this is why I'm saying that on contemporary times or today's times also there is an issue. Why I'm saying, and again you will have to ponder upon this point, because think of farm suicide. Is it happening out of bonded labor or something else? Actually, what is happening in today's world is that most of the farmers or anyone who is taking the loan is not investing that money in for the purpose for which the person is taking the loan. For example, I am a small farmer. I take a loan in the name of agriculture and I spend that money on my daughter's wedding. Do you think I will be ever be able to repay back the loan? बताइए. Or I took the money for the in the name of my treatment. Will I ever be able to repay the loan? Now the question is that you might say that yes, sir, bonded labor is an institution which should not exist. Middlemen should not exist. जैसे साहूकार जो होते हैं should not exist. But think about the position of an individual where he is in need of money and no one is there to lend the money. What do you say? Do you think that absence of this market will address the issue of bonded labor? बताइए सौम्या, जैसे have you seen that movie Mother India?
Yes, sir.
So that is also a classical case. Now,
Yeah.
getting away of Sahukas addresses the issue of rural financing, a minor financing that takes place in the rural India. Will it address? So any system which is existing in the society or prevailing in the society is prevailing because of the historical situation or historical context which has, and that is the reason that it had survived for so long. Why do you think that now the government after independence had to take a severe decision to eradicate this practice, and it still exists in the rural India for variety of reasons, and we are still happy. Believe me, we are happy about it. Okay, but then it has existed for thousands of years. Okay, so now coming back to economic equality. So what is economic equality? Equality of satisfaction of certain basic needs, or you can talk about opportunity or access to resources. Okay, privileges of the economically underprivileged, like in terms of there was mudra loan. Okay, it's not, whenever we are talking about inequality, it simply doesn't mean absence of inequality. Okay, it is more like promotion. Okay, not the absence of inequality. Okay, like when we talk about the free fair economy or market structure economy, so that everyone who has the potential talent can take advantage of the market situation and grow. And again, Lusky argues that social inequality or economic inequality is mostly a problem of proportion. So in the examination, they can ask about who is associated with the problem of proportion. Okay. So what does problem of proportion mean? So things which are necessary for survival must be accessible to all without any distinction. Necessary for survival must be accessible to all. Okay, because we are saying that what is necessary for survival? Roti, kapda, or makan. Okay, so many equal satisfaction of basic needs are important. Equal satisfaction of basic needs are important. This is an important precondition for equality of opportunity. Okay, reduction in terms of distribution of commodities. When we talked about private property, so you can say that this is also a kind of economic inequality, right? Whenever we are talking about the question that Shreya raised was not Shreya, wait, Soumya raised was about, or was in terms of, the relation between the landless and the landlord class. So landless class is working on the land okay, or the tenant class. So the relationship, and this is the economic relationship that we are talking about, because accessibility to food is important, shelter is important, clothes is important. So economic equality. Okay, and again, can economic equality can be in the matter of status, property, or income? So equality, when we are talking about in economic terms, whenever we are talking about the industrial production or the rise in technological intervention, okay, so technology should address economic inequality. Whenever we are talking about technology, this technology or industrial revolution production, what has industrial production done for the causes of economic inequality? Tell me, how has did industrial revolution led to economic inequality or a decrease in economic inequality? Whenever we are talking about in terms of the problems of proportion, what do you think, Archana? Actually, industrial revolution just decreased the cost of production. So decreasing the cost means it becomes more accessible or not. Second, it increased production. So your supply increased at a lower cost. So it became more accessible. Think about laptops today. Everyone can access a laptop, or think about your smartphones. But can you imagine a smartphone back in 1990? So how do you address? Okay, I was giving a lecture in IT Bombay, and I mean, it was more like you can say we tried to have a connect between the social sciences and the sciences. So while we were discussing about the project, we came up with a very beautiful project, and this was done by the third year and fourth year IT Bombay computer science student. What they did was that they proposed that we can develop a mechanism so that just by looking at the blood or taking the blood sample, we can understand or analyze the requirements. Like we have this Anganwadi system where food is being given to underprivileged students, or there is an issue of malnourishment. So the question is that what kind of proteins or nourishment is required? So how do we use this blood to understand the requirement of an individual child? And we can give the proteins or the nutritional parts accordingly. So this is again something where you can say this can lead to your, this is equality of result or equality, or you can say equality of source or equality of result. क्या हो गए? सोचिए, ठीक है. And the fourth one is your social equality. Social equality, again, every equality of opportunity and something, not refusal. Okay. Equal pay, equal work, equal status, equal value. Okay. So all of these concepts are important. What is a Marxist concept of equality? So they talk about evolution of class and equal status for all. So evolution of class system is Positive equality or negative equality?
Negative equality.
Yes. And equal social status. Equal social status. So they talk about the identical condition of all people. Identical condition of all people and different classes, or you can, when we talk about a identical condition, this means when there will be no class system, then only we can think of identical system. In terms of when we talk about the liberal society, whenever we are talking about over here, we also talked about rule of law and equality before law. So liberal societies tries to promote equality before equality. When we talk about equality, it means equality has been taken before equality of all or law. Okay, or the exploitation, when we talk about in terms of exploitation, political or economic inequality, absence of rights for the working people remains intact. Equality, this equality is important before, and or we can say equality is necessary, and equality is something which exists before equality before law. Okay, and that's why liberal theory also suggests right of every man to own property. Right to own property. So in this case, how do you or where do you place Robert Nozick?
Sir, the framework that he belongs to,
Yes,
sir, he belongs to the libertarian strand.
yes. So this liberal part is important. Okay, because he talks about equality of what? Equal rights. He says when we talk about Nozick, the property which is being created is a result of one's labor. Yes or no? And that's why the person or the individual has the right to property or private property. Whereas Marxists say that yes, there should be equality of income and wealth. And wealth. So Marxist talks about in terms of the end result, that at the end every must be having the same amount of income and wealth. And here Robert Nozick says that no, based on individual rights, individual incentive, individual focus, they can have more property or less property till the time that each and every individual has the equality before law or equality in terms of availing the opportunity. So there are 5 different individual students, and each gets the same opportunity or equality to prepare for the entrance examination. So each one can have a varied score in the final examination. So Robert Nozick says that yes, each one is free to have till the time the opportunities which are being provided are equal, the end result can vary. Marxist says no, this end result should be equal. Okay. And that's why Marxist concept is that till the time your property are not abolished, you cannot have a classless society, because creation or having provide private property meaning this gives different individuals different position or status in the society, and they can use their inherent position to launch themselves. Okay. So it's impossible without the evolution of private ownership. That's why Marx even wrote in his book like the evolution of class is necessary for equality. And Lenin says that only evolution of classes will achieve social equality, or social equality, it can be achieved only through evolution of class. Okay. So what do we mean by this term positive discrimination? What do we mean by this term positive discrimination?
So, for instance, reservation or affirmative
Yes,
action.
preferential treatment or differential treatment, meaning unequal treatment for unequals. Okay. So this is more like whenever we talk about positive discrimination or differential treatment, this is more like a tool or policy measure. Tool, or you can say policy measure. And this tool is being used to address, it can be used to address both social and economic or political, whatever equality you talk about. So to protect the rights of the weakest. So in this sense, do you think Marx in any way talks about positive discrimination? Does Marx talks about positive discrimination? No, because he simply says take away the property of the ownership class or the capitalist class. He doesn't say that yes, the working class must be given some right, or the state must create some industries where they are given the equal rights. No, so no positive discrimination. They simply talk about evolution. Okay. Then what is there is a concept now we are going to discuss some of the concepts like what is vertical and horizontal equity. Horizontal and vertical equity.
So, an example of horizontal equity would be that if a woman is Dalit, so a Dalit and a woman at the same time is like a horizontal. Um,
So you are placing an individual at the same level. What do we mean by equity? Talk about taxation. There is 30% tax on anyone who earns above 20 lakh. Okay. Now, suppose we have Keshav. He is earning 60 lakh. What is the percentage of tax that he will pay? And suppose someone earns 20 lakhs. So both are paying the same amount of tax. Although you'll find that the amount in absolute terms will vary. Okay. Or you can talk about the benefit principles of taxation. Did you get this concept? Someone who earns 20 lakh absolute value, what is the amount of tax to be paid? 6 lakh. And this person who is earning 60 lakh, what is the amount of tax that is being paid? 18 lakh. So both are paying 30% only. Okay. Now, benefit principles of taxation. It simply says that yes, tax burden should be assigned accordingly to the benefits. Should be assigned as per benefits. Okay. Received from the government. So you can think of these kind of things more in terms of the indirect taxes. Think of toll tax. More you travel, more you pay. Less you travel, less you pay. So this is on the benefit principle of taxation. Okay, this means benefit principle would state that different people of having different income will pay differently. Whereas we have ability to pay principle. People having same income group will pay or have the same ability to pay or pay the same amount. Okay. So this is all you need to study in the topic of equality. Any question?